Hi, I'm Mark. This is Mark's Tech Vlogs on YouTube, and today I'm going to review the Zigma Spark Smart Robot Vacuum Cleaner. Now I want to start this review by being honest with you guys and saying that I was actually sent this product by the manufacturer in order to review it. That being said, I wasn't sent it with the premise of saying anything nice about it, and so this review is going to be my honest opinion after using it for 3 weeks. So let's start the review. The Zigma Spark Robot Vacuum Cleaner has been on sale in the USA and Germany now for a few months, but it's only just coming to the UK. It retails at just over £300, which puts it towards the higher end of the market when it comes to robot vacuum cleaners. This means that this sort of vacuum cleaner is up against companies like Roomba. So let's talk about the design. The Zigma Spark comes in black and has a nice round design with a couple of shades and finishes to add contrast to the design. It's only 9 centimeters tall, which makes it super slim, and it also sits really close to the ground, which is great for getting close to your floor when it's hoovering. That low profile also means that it can get under some furniture in order to hoover. On the top of the device you also find this laser that sticks out a little bit. This laser spins around when the vacuum cleaner is in action and enables the smart technology to build up a picture of your room. The top of the device also has a button to send it back to its charging base and a start or stop button for controlling it. On the side of the device you'll find some speakers, a power switch and a removable dust tray, which can be changed out with a mopping tray. In the box when you get it, you get the vacuum itself, some instructions, the charging base, some spare filters and brushes, a brush for cleaning the roller as well, and then you also get an additional mopping accessory which replaces the dust tray and allows you to set your robot vacuum to mopping mode. For mopping mode you get a couple of these removable cloths. In addition to that you also get a remote control. This basically gives you everything you need to get going and have a few spares to replace things later on. This moves us quite nicely on to talk about the spec of this vacuum cleaner. The vacuum has suction power of 1500 PA, which isn't as high as some other robot vacuum cleaners in similar price ranges, which can push up to 2000, but it is plenty enough and still has plenty of suction. The other really nice feature is that from the app you can adjust the suction power. This means you can set it to maximum suction, normal amount of suction, or quiet mode, which has slightly less suction but really does make the vacuum nice and quiet. The dustbin has a 600ml capacity, which is double that of the iLife vacuum cleaner I reviewed a few months ago, and it's really good to have a huge amount of space in this little vacuum, especially if, like me, you tend to forget to empty these things. In addition to this, the manual also says you can wash the filters. This is particularly good for getting extra life out of those filters, although make sure they're fully dry before you put them back in. The laser built into the top of the vacuum allows it to smartly map your house and remember where it's been already. In practice, what this means is that it cleans your house in a really smart, logical way. And rather than just going all over the place and turning when it bumps into something, it actually works around the edges and then does some quite logical lines, which you can see if you watch it in progress in the app. As the vacuum's doing its thing, because it connects via Wi-Fi, you can see this map update in real time. There's also the option to set things like cleaning zones if you want to really intensely clean part of a room, and also virtual walls if you want to draw a no-go zone. This is particularly good if you've got an area you don't want it to go. The battery life in this device is also pretty good, and they claim it has up to 120 minutes of cleaning time. This will of course vary on the intensity at which you set the vacuum and also what mode you've got it in. What I have found, however, is that whilst my other robot vacuum cleaner could go around the house and use its battery up and end up going back to the station, because this one vacuums so smartly, it never gets through the whole battery. It just covers a room and then goes back once it's done. Of course, if you've got a huge house, maybe 120 minutes is what you're going to need. The really clever thing about it is that if it does run out of battery halfway through a cleaning cycle, it will remember where it stopped, go back to base, charge, and then when it next starts working, it will go back to the place it last stopped. It's also worth saying that the front of the device has a rubber soft area that moves in. This means if it crashes into a piece of furniture, it doesn't do any damage to it. The base of the device has 2 chunky wheels on. These move in and out and enable the device to get up small steps without any problems at all. By small steps, I should probably say I mean about kind of ½ centimetre ledges just between rooms. The final thing worth saying about the spec is that it also has a cliff edge sensor. This means that if you're using it at the top of the stairs, it senses when there's a gap and it doesn't fall down the stairs. This, as you can see, is incredibly impressive. So those are the key points when it comes to specs, but how easy is it to actually get set up and running? One of the things that really impressed me is just how simple it was to set up. You simply had to plug in the charging base, hook the vacuum cleaner up to it, and then download the Zigma app, which you can get for Android and iOS. From there, you follow the instructions in the app to add the new device, which involves scanning the QR code on the side of your vacuum and making sure it can connect to your home Wi-Fi network. Once that's done, you can activate the vacuum and change the settings using the app. It's also in the app you can also do things like set schedules and draw those no-go zones I talked about earlier. You can also start the vacuum by pressing a button on the remote, by pressing a button on the vacuum, and you can even set up a voice assistant, so you can hook it up to something like Amazon Alexa and then just ask Alexa to start the vacuum. The schedules are particularly useful because you can choose when it starts and when it stops, and you can also choose what days of the week you want it to run for. In my case, that means I've got it set up to run every other day at a particular time, and it just does one cycle and then returns home. But I could, for example, set it to hoover for longer on some days rather than others. If you want to do things like adjust the intensity of the hoovering or the amount of water that comes out when you mop, you do this in the app. The really clever thing is that the settings options for the vacuum update depending on whether it's on or not. This means once it's started the process, you can then adjust the intensity. In both the vacuum and mopping modes, the vacuum works around the edges of a room first and creates a map of your room based on the edges. If it's previously mapped the same room that it's in, it will just follow that saved map. It then works through the centre of your room in a really logical way. What I found is that it seems to get to the edges and the corners of a room no problem and navigates furniture without getting stuck. But how good is it at actually cleaning your house? From using it, I'd say that it does a really good job at picking up just about everything. I've noticed that the floor looks nice and clean both on our short pile carpet and on the wooden floors, and actually the most intense test I gave it was in our bathroom. This is where we keep our cat litter tray, and he's really good at just throwing litter everywhere, and so I just emptied the spare litter off of his mat and left the vacuum to it. What I will say is that it did knock some of the litter around the room, as you can see on the video I'm showing you. However, after sending it around twice, it had pretty much picked up all of it. This is really quite impressive considering just how much of it there was on the floor. What this means is that whether you're using it on a short pile carpet or a wooden floor or a vinyl floor, it actually picks up stuff really well. One of the things I particularly like is having those extra vacuuming modes and the ability to set a no-go zone as well. If the vacuum does get into problems, for example mine got caught on a shoelace, it will stop vacuuming and the built-in speaker will communicate a message. This speaker also communicates things like when it's starting hoovering and when it's heading back to its charging base. This speaker is surprisingly loud and it's quite useful having that level of communication, although you can adjust the volume in the app. You can also choose the voice, and that even includes recording your own if you want your vacuum cleaner to sound like you. When it comes to returning to the base, the smart laser system means that it finds the base with no problems at all, every single time. The other thing worth mentioning that's just really well thought out is that you can remove the roller brush from the bottom of the vacuum. That means if the roller brush gets caught up with a load of cat hair or something, you can easily take it out and use the brush to clean it. The other feature I should really talk about is the mopping function. The mopping accessory that comes with it comes with 2 removable mop heads, and using it is as simple as adding water to the tank and switching it out with the normal dustbin. The chips built into the dustbin and the mopping accessory means that your vacuum cleaner knows which accessory it's currently using. This means that the controls on the smartphone app adjust accordingly. When you're in mopping mode, you can choose how much water it releases, and you can also set it to a Y mopping mode, which covers each part of your floor from different angles for a more accurate mop. There's also a slightly smaller dust tray as part of the mopping accessory, which means it does hoover up some bits and pieces whilst it's mopping. This is good because it doesn't just mop dust and bits and pieces into your floor, it tries to suck them up first. Again, this is a really well thought out accessory. One of the things I did do whilst using this vacuum cleaner is I reached out to Zigma to find out if you could use floor cleaner or hot water with the mopping accessory. They did get back to me and said you can use a floor cleaner with it, but you can't use hot water. This means you are doing a cold mop, however being able to add floor cleaner is great for killing bacteria. What I will say about the mopping function is it's certainly more aimed at just a general clean of your floor and not at getting deep stains out. I did try and use it on a food stain on the kitchen floor and it loosened it, but it didn't get it off completely. As with the vacuum function, the mopping function is also smart, which means it maps your room and only mops the room once. Once it's done, it returns to base, or if you started it from somewhere else, say you just put it down in the kitchen to mop there, it will just stop where it originally started. Finally, it's also worth mentioning there's a feature coming soon that will let you save your maps and reload them into the app. This will be put out by an app update. This will be really useful if you've got different rooms in your house, say you take it upstairs every so often and you want it to remember the map of that room. All in all, the Zigma Spark Smart Vacuum Cleaner is just one of those products where everything has just been thought out really well. The design looks nice, the dustbin collects plenty of dust, and even the app is well thought out with little UI tweaks depending on the task the vacuum cleaner is carrying out, whether that's mopping or vacuuming. The mop feature is also a really nice addition to have, and it's good to have a device that does both in one. For me, the biggest difference between this vacuum cleaner and cheaper robot vacuum cleaners is that smart mapping technology. This means that the time the Zigma Spark spends vacuuming compared to my other robot vacuum cleaner is so much less because it actually has a plan rather than just randomly travelling about. If you look in the app at the map once it's created one, you really can see the shape of your room and where the furniture is. All in all, this is a really good smart robot vacuum cleaner. It picks up dirt well, it cleans floor, and it's got lots of features. On top of that, things like removable filters and removable brushes means that you can keep it clean and keep that suction effective. I hope you guys have found this video helpful. If you've got any questions, do stick them below and I will try and answer those. If you want to pick one up, I've put a link to Amazon below, and I'll see you guys again soon.